Hello, world. Welcome to the 232nd climate change emergency protest here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I'm having to film at a low angle because the wind is blowing so hard at times. Um, so this is out on Pickett's Charge, which is the third day's part of the battle. It was a 3-day battle from July 1st to July 3rd, involving the Union Army, which was the North, versus the South as a Civil War. And this is in 1863, July 1863. So the South was the Confederates, the rebels, trying to separate from our country and keep slavery going. They said it was states' rights, but in all, states' rights comes down to the right to own people, and that's what the battle was all about. And also the Civil War. 500,000 people died as a result of it or more. Who knows? And destruction of houses and families and stuff. So this is May 4th, 2023. This is number 232 Climate Change Emergency Protest. The next one will be on May 12th, 2023. And that'll be next Friday or Thursday. That'll be number 233. So this is number 232. So right here at this moment in time, this is the third day's battle. This is the biggest part of the whole Civil War, the moment in time where things could have changed one way or another, and our country would have gone one way or another, and the whole world would have been changed significantly, not just a little. I'm not saying this lightly. The whole world could have been changed significantly had things not changed, had not occurred the way they did. General Lee from the Confederates, the Southerners, the rebels, was looking upon this, and he had his dander up, and he thought that he could attack a defensive position reinforced by many, many troops, and attack over 3/4 of a mile of open ground, and attack this ground, and break through the lines and hold that line. And in spite of the fact there were thousands of people, that were hell-bent on stopping him, and he thought he could do that, and no one said to him, hey, this is a dumb idea, you need to change your course, go either farther south, force the Union off the hill, and have them follow you down, and they lose their defensive position. Easily done. Could have done it. He could have surrendered. He could have just said, you know what, this war is untenable. We're not going to win in the long run, and thousands of people are going to die as a result of it. And had he been a grown-up person, he would have realized that, it's easy to see that things were collapsing for the South. The Union was catching up in manufacturing and all, and tactics, and the generals were getting better, and the manufacturing online was just horrendous, far outpacing the South. We were destroying the Southern manufacturing, and our Union manufacturing was getting larger and larger and stronger all the time. So these are those decisive moments in time where you make those decisions in your life, and whether it's here on the battlefield or in your individual lives or in the presidency or Congress or whatever, or if you do the right thing, regardless of the outcome, it's the right thing. And he chose to do the wrong thing, which was continue with his war. But had he continued to do wrong things, he could have slid away from here and forced the Union off the hill. So this is the most important decision of General Lee's life, General Robert E. Lee. It's also the most important decision of that of the United States. By far the most important. It kept our country together or split it in part. And by far, it's the most important decision. This moment in time was the most important decision that could have changed the whole world for better or worse. We wouldn't have been available as one country to help fight World War I. Would not have been available to help fight World War II. World War I would have ended differently. Spanish-American War would have never occurred. These whole things spin away. And in your life, when you make these decisions, if you look at it, your life, you're doing this line, and then you make this decision, and things start going a different path than what that path you're on. And things happen in your life, and you make these decisions in your life. That things happen that's a moment in time where you can definitively say that my life changed at this point, for better or worse. That was what happened, and this is where everything changed. Right here at this very field, like right here, like 100 yards away, this very field, everything changed. The whole course of the world changed. So that one moment, had he done 1 hour of contemplation thinking, hey, this is not a good idea, we need to change our course, but the die, he cast the die. That was it. If that one moment of contemplation, 1 minute, he could have gone, this is not a good situation. We cannot hold that ground, and maybe this whole war is untenable, and maybe we just need to surrender at this point and just call it quits. Would have changed everything. Would have changed everything in another direction. Those moments in time. 1 second, he could have, when he was asked, should we go forward with this? He knew it wasn't going to hold. There's no way it would have held. And he could easily have said, no, we're not going to do this. I know we're lined up. We're ready to go. Just because you have the ability to do something doesn't mean you should do something, okay? So that he could have said no more. Okay, I'm done. We surrender. Run a white flag over there. He could have walked across the field and go, I surrender. We're done. Okay, the Army of Northern Virginia would have been done, and that would have just left several other armies left for the Confederacy, and they were lesser armies, and that would have ended the whole thing. So now we're right in that situation. We're in that moment in time in that situation. You are, I am, everybody that's listening to this is, people that aren't listening to this are in that moment in time. Joe Biden's in that moment of time, and understand why I talk about Joe Biden right now. I'd talk about any president that was in the White House that was doing the wrong thing, and he's doing the wrong thing. And this could be corrected either by you or me or people that are willing to say to him that he would listen to and say, this is a dumb decision. You need to stop doing this and go on a reverse path and get back to where we were. So that moment in time was the Willow Project in Alaska. Okay, that he chose to drill in Alaska. He's choosing to drill. It's going to change not only Alaska itself, but it's going to change the course of the world and what's going to happen with whether we survive as a society or not. He has also auctioned off 80 million acres in the Gulf of Mexico for drilling and gas, for oil and gas. He's also auctioned off additional land recently in the Gulf of Mexico the size of Italy for drilling and of oil and gas. So these moments need to be stopped, and he needs to stop it and turn around and go, this is really a dumb decision. I know I'm going to lose votes. I don't care. This is going to save society, or at least give us a chance to survive. So far, he's issued 2,600 drilling permits on federal land. He promised at the beginning of his campaign to issue none. Stop all drilling on federal land. He has authorized more drilling on federal land in the first 2 years than Trump did in his first 2 years of office. 2,600 drilling permits on federal land. Understand this. He's not doing good things. He's not a good person right now. This is a psychopath involved actions, and whether the person is psychopathic or not, that's going to be up to the psychologist to determine later. But the actions are that of a psychopath, because he knows, he's talked about this during the campaign, that we're in a dire situation, an existential threat, meaning it's in your face, the tiger's on your back, and you're going to die if you don't do the right thing to get that tiger off your back. That's where we are right now. So he's choosing not to transform from a car culture. See, we're doing these electric cars. Electric cars. Everyone's talking about it. But there's no talk of mass transit, okay? So what this does is perpetuate the auto industry and the continuation of the electric car industry, just switching over from gas cars to electric cars. There are many things we could do that would stop that whole situation. Mass transit. You could have research and development to the point that you would need a car. You think about it. Your car sits in the driveway. You don't do anything with it for 23 hours a day or 22 hours a day. 2 hours you're using it. That's about it. So you could call up an electric car. It could drive up, pick you up, get on the highway, get in a train situation with other electric cars, zipping along at 200 miles an hour or 150 miles an hour in a protected space. And when you want to go to another place to get dropped off, the car just veers off from the electric train, electric train of cars, and goes to your place where you want to go, drops you off, picks someone else up, recharges itself, and then goes about its way and does the same thing all over again. We don't need cars in every driveway, okay? Probably we don't need cars at all. The people they could just program these things to pick you up. There could be satellites around here, satellite parking for picking people up and doing things like that. Just cars just waiting. Other things that I can't even contemplate. No research and development, because all of our money is going towards war, which I talked about last week, and also towards the subsidies towards the oil and gas industry. It's sickness that's going on, and someone needs to say no more. It needs to stop, and here I am saying it. It won't get out. But please share this if you choose to feel that I'm on the right path. Now, that was Joe Biden. Now, Congress, you got Republicans, Democrats involved, because we don't have third parties in this country. It's a lockdown system. It's a duopoly. They're owned by the same group of people, the oil and gas industry, the Wall Street, you name it. You act like it's separate. It's basically the same thing all over again. There's no third party, no fourth party, no involvement, no alternative thought process going on. No working with each other, because they don't have to. They have their own groups of people. Republicans have their people. Democrats have their people for the most part. So Congress could easily, respond to this dire situation and say no more. They could go out in front of the press as soon as they leave the Capitol every day and just say, we're in a dire situation. We need to change things. The press would cover it and everything else like that. They could help their constituents. Right now, these tornadoes are happening, floods, drought, fires, you name it, are happening to their own constituents, and against their life, they are choosing to do nothing concerning climate change. In fact, they're making it worse by authorizing these drilling and projects and things like that, coming up with new ways to get money from the oil gas industry so they can run for re-election. Yeah, you're going to have to do the right thing and not get re-elected, but they don't have enough moral strength, as does Joe Biden. He does not have enough moral strength to say no and just go on with their life and realize you're not going to get reelected probably. But you got to do the right thing. You got to look at the kids, you got to look at your wife, husband, whatever, and say this is the right thing to do, is to do nothing as far as hurting the environment even worse and actually making things better. But they're choosing not to. So you got to worry. They need to stop worrying about losing votes in elections. All right. So rather than looking ahead to the death of billions of people, and literally this is going to cause, just like this battle led to the death of additional 200,000-300,000 people, we're literally in a situation where Congress and Joe Biden and whoever's the president at the time is literally sentencing people to death. Every government is doing this right now. No one's really going at it and speaking out against the United States or against China or against Russia and saying, you guys got to cut this stuff out and we need to survive. Okay, there's no one speaking out. All right, what happens when you do speak out as a world leader? You somehow end up dead a lot of times, okay? So, no one's speaking about the loss of life that's coming up. This is an extinction event. As I talked about last week, we're at the highest rate of mass extinctions going on than any time, the background death rate, background extinction rate, than any time that ever existed in the previous 5 extinctions. So we're going at a rate that is crazy as far as that's going on. Carbon dioxide was 425 parts per million recently this week. So that's a new record. We just keep going up, and it's not slowing down. So in addition to the Congress and the presidency, here on the battlefield, I love this place, but it should be nothing but forest. Okay, at this point, it should be the Gettysburg National Forest rather than just the Gettysburg open plains battlefield. Okay, that's what your imagination's for. They could have said a field once existed here, but we need to put in a forest to keep life on Earth going, and no one's going to do it. No one's going to say no. So they keep cutting down trees, making it appear like it did in 1863. And eventually it'll appear like it did in the year 00000, because there'll be no life on Earth, have to start all over. And everyone, people have run into, go, everybody dies, so what? It's how the death is going to occur. Mass starvation. Go look up South Sudan, not Sudan where the war is going on. South Sudan is what's happening. Go look up Kenya, what's happening. Go look up Asia right now. The heat waves are going through, which is nuts going on. Brazil is changing their forests, their rainforests and everything. They're very close to hitting the tipping point. They're at 17% tearing down the rainforest. Now if they get up to 21%, my guess is the whole rainforest will tip to a point that it suddenly becomes a savanna and then eventually a desert. So you got the battlefield here. It could easily plant trees. There are 4,500 acres or so or more, depending on which website you go to. But that's a lot of acreage you could have in trees. The town, Gettysburg, down right here, down this swale here, right down, literally half a mile away. They could easily change. They could just make themselves a green culture. They're choosing not to. Okay, there's no progressive effort to make the whole town green, do things that make it green, like I talked about on one of my talks about the alleys and how to make that into a greenway and everything. But no, and we could have mass transit of, have satellite parking and no one's downtown at all. Okay, basically, and you have just a town that's all green. There's lots of things that could be done. There are tons of people here that could brainstorm as to think their way through things, but no one wants to do it. No one wants to say, no, this is not the path we want to be on. We want to be green. We want to make things better, not worse. We want to plant more trees in town. We want the ability to do that. It's just building, or doing stuff that does not involve greening of Gettysburg itself. So there are things that could be done that are chosen not to be done at all. So the choices we make, those moments in time, that can be just one of those moments where everyone just says no more. It could be one of those moments where everyone just says no more. I'm done with this. This is not right. We're on the wrong path. We could say no to certain death. We should say no to certain death. That's where we are right now. And every time you vote, pull that lever right in that person. You're saying, I agree with the death path we're on. Okay, let's continue on this path because they're making great choices for us rather than someone asking you whether you want to go forth with this. No one asks you about the Willow Project, the drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, the 2,600 drilling permits and things like that. No one asks you. You vote for these leaders, and then right away they're given ultimate power to make these life and death decisions, whether to go to war or whether to do whatever. You know, no one asks you. There's no referendum for each giant issue. For example, if you're at your home with your wife or husband, you're paying your bills. That doesn't require someone to consult with. You just do it. Okay. But if you're going to buy a car, if you're going to expand the house, most likely you got to talk to your spouse and say, hey, you know, let's do this project and let's work together on this and let's think about it. Nobody asks you whether you want to go to war, whether you want to have more drilling projects, things like that. These are big issues, and a leader or 435 leaders like in Congress shouldn't be instilled with that power to decide whether you live or die without your consent, okay? Taxes are basically a mugging. It's a legalized mugging of the person, you and me, without our consent, okay? If I was a mugger and I stole your wallet and I beat you over the head and threw you to the curb and forgot about you and walked away with your money, you'd go, that's illegal. You can't do that. That's the person should be in jail. But if the government comes in and takes your tax money and then does whatever it wants with it, that's legalized, okay? That's allowed. So think about that kind of thought. It's a different thought process that needs to be involved here anymore, and we're not willing to do it. So the election's going to, there's always 2 elections every year, you know, fall and spring or whatever, spring and fall. Think about it before you vote, okay? Whether you want to continue down this path or you're willing to say no more, despite the outcome. You need to stop and say no more. That's your choice. I promised myself I wouldn't try to cajole people, but that is an option that people are not willing to go down. And, you know, the problem is everyone else's decisions affects me and my family, and my decisions affects you and your family. So there's no separation of us. There's no borders with climate change and things like that. It doesn't stop the United States border. It doesn't stop the European border. We're all in the same lifeboat together. So I'll catch you next week. That'll be number 233 on May 12th, 2023. So hang in there, think about your choices, and move along with your life in a good direction. Catch you then.